Good evening and welcome back to our Voting Nation updates on Sinar Daily. I'm Tamina Kausji and this evening I'm joined with
Adila Azam. Thank you for watching us at Sinar Daily Facebook. Today we'll be wrapping up and tracing all the live updates of GE15. We'll share some of the best moments captured on social media and also news media on Sinar today. We'll start with the voter turnout, Tamina.
Yeah, that's right. So the latest figures which we have actually from SPR coming out, Adila, and likely the ones which will be the final update for today is a 70% turnout, which brings us to a record 14.8 million voters, pretty much the highest turnout that we have ever seen for a general election in Malaysia.
Yes, definitely. Congratulations to Malaysians for going out and voting despite the weather conditions today in some places in Malaysia. In fact, one of the polling stations in Sarawak was forced to close because of the bad weather. And the place is Baram in Sarawak, and they will be holding their election in the next, waiting for EC to come up with the next date for the election to be held in that area. But also another place is Don Tioman, which will also hold their election at a later day. And also another place which is Parliament Sembrong, where a Pakatan Harapan candidate died on Wednesday.
That's correct.
And that will make that means out of the 222 seats, Parliament seats in GE15, only 220 will be counted today.
That's right. And of course, since we do not have an analyst in-house, we actually did go through the facts and the figures and what is and what isn't. So does that actually mean, will we be seeing a government formed or will we actually have to wait? Well, the consensus on that actually is because the first past the post method actually applies to the Malaysian electoral system, that actually means the magic number now for a simple majority in forming the new government is 111. So whoever has those numbers, they are actually able to form the government.
Yes,
we will not actually have to wait until the results of the other outstanding two elections that will have to happen, of course, but do not necessarily influence what will happen in the next 2 days.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Hoping it doesn't get to 2 days for them to count. And
hopefully it's all done this evening, right?
Hopefully so, yes, correct. Because definitely, despite the high turnout, voter fatigue is definitely, political fatigue is definitely there among Malaysians. People are frustrated and they just want to have a stable government to lead us in our recovery and to also face the uncertainty, social economic uncertainty of in the future. So what are the interesting stats that we can share? It's that let's talk about like women voters and women candidates for a while, because I know that's also one of your like passion.
Absolutely, it's a pet issue. So I think what we did actually see was, despite the fact that we have in a total of 945 candidates who have been vying for the overall 222 parliamentary seats, women representation still 13.4% only,
yes,
right?
Correct. Only 127 female candidates recorded for parliament seats, while for state seats, 60 female candidates, and that's definitely a very low count. And no political party managed to fulfill their promise of 30% female candidates in GE15.
That's right. So I think to break that down a little bit further, let's look at what the stats show, which is that for GE14 at least, we had a 50.7% female voter turnout, meaning which they made all the difference in changing the government of the day for the first time in Malaysia's democratic history as a nation. But at the same time, what also is the fact is that women make up about 49% of the whole Malaysian population. So what is the logic behind political parties who have also across the board been saying for the past decade 30%, 30%? But when it comes down to the line of nominating female candidates,
when it comes to executing,
it has not yet happened.
Correct, they failed to fulfill their promise. But just also like as part of a trivia for today, let's look at how the political parties fare in terms of women candidates so far. So for example, Barisan Nasional have 22 female candidates out of 178 total candidates, Perikatan Nasional, 16 female candidates out of 149 contested. GTA, Gerakan Tanah Air, 16 female candidates out of 116. 10 women are contesting under the independent ticket, 6 for Parti Warisan, and the rest are for other parties. The youngest female candidate is for Parlimen Tenom, Peggy Chow Zi Ting, 23 years old.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, oldest is Datuk Liu Chin Jin, 70 years old, or fondly known as Datuk Christina Liu for Tawau Parliament seat.
Exactly. So some really interesting stats over there, Adila, and I also wanted to highlight, as I have also referred to in our earlier broadcast, that we also do happen to have for the very first time a OKU or disabled candidate being run by a major political party.
Correct.
That's Dr. Nur Aisha running for Putrajaya against heavyweight candidates.
She's
incumbent
a scientist.
Tunku Adnan, she's a scientist.
An activist.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. So she has actually been in the spotlight. But here's another issue that often comes up when it comes to female representation.
Yeah.
It is that usually the civil society organizations and NGOs, they bring up the issue that political parties should put women in better seats.
Correct.
Or more easily winnable seats.
Correct.
Of course, then the discourse becomes, oh, but it should be on merit.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the line, again,
But
we
then it's a
actually
strategy,
see,
right?
we
Why
actually
you
see
choose to
women
put,
put in non-winnable seats.
Correct, the very
Right.
hardly contesting seat.
Exactly.
It's very hard, but we wish her the best.
Absolutely.
The doctor, that even though it's a tough fight for her, it's one of the hottest seats in GE, definitely, big names in Putrajaya. But I think we have a reporter on the ground that we want to talk to.
Yes, that's right. So we actually have B. Aisha who will be joining us from the ground to just wrap up what the end of the day looked like at the polling center that she was stationed at. Over to you, B. Aisha.
Thank you, Tamina from Studio Karangkraf. Hello guys, B. Aisha here. I'm reporting live from SMK Section 8, Kota Damansara. And this is one of the voting center for Sungai Buloh Parliament. As you can see behind me, the voting center is now closed as we speak. And we just received an important update from one of the SPR offices that there are 6,000 to 7,000 out of 12,000 voters as in 2:30 p.m. here. And that's all from me. For more info, back to you, Tamina.
Right, so there you go. Most polling stations are already closed. But
Yeah.
on that note, thanks to B. Aisha for that quick update. But I also wanted to highlight that there actually have been several grouses whereby, especially on social media, Malaysians, netizens have gone online to complain about how they feel that SPR has actually not been very fair and also not informed them properly. For example, a center in Kuala Pilah, it actually closed by noon. And
Right.
people who were actually on their way to vote, of course, came up to a closed voting center.
Right. This is also the same problem that happened, if I'm not mistaken, in Pantai Dalam today, right?
That is
Fahmi
also
Fazil's,
correct.
Area where the polling center was not set up properly for the election, and it caused a little bit of problem earlier in the day. We also see some drama unfolding with a certain political party figure that wears a party logo to go and vote. That it defy the law, the regulation of the EC.
That's right. Bersih has, of course, called for an investigation into the political figure because clearly we have actually had voters who have been dressed up as, let's say, Predator, and they have actually been turned away because once again it contravenes what type of attire you are allowed to be present in at a voting station.
Yeah, some voters actually came and dressed as Iron Man. I saw on
That's right.
on Twitter. I saw Iron Man. I saw other characters as well, quite funnily, and some of them are allowed in. So I guess it depends on who is the head of the particular polling station to allow the said individual to come in and vote. We also see some newlyweds performing their duties.
Correct.
In fact, and also people who are unwell or who are not in their best of health also going out to vote. So there's definitely no excuse for people not to go down and vote today, to be honest. Where actually a lady was voting inside an ambulance just because she wants to fulfill her duties. We also have another interesting trivia regarding voters. The oldest voters, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the oldest voters
That's correct.
today.
Exactly. So apparently, according to the family of an elderly lady in Borneo, in Sabah, she has actually voted in every single one of Malaysia's general elections, and this makes it her 15th general election. So this was reported by news outlet SAYS, and supposedly she has actually cast her vote in each and every one of the elections and is a grand 102 years old, a centenarian.
Yes.
Amazing.
That
amazing
is really
stuff.
amazing.
So at the same time, though, we also did see reports insofar of, unfortunately, 3 individuals who did actually pass on
away.
while in the midst of fulfilling their duties at polling centres.
Yes, 2 senior citizen voters in Parliament Sembrong and Parliament Pulai, Johor, passed away at the polling stations according to Johor Election Commission, and another one in Kota Baru, Kelantan.
That's right.
Yeah.
So coming back to SPR once again and all the polling centre kerfluffles which have been happening. So aside from the 11 polling centres which were closed in Sarawak due to, of course, the incoming floods, there were also complaints and a little bit of a hullabaloo that has been created by Malaysians that they were angry, number one, with the closure of the polling centre in Kuala Pilah by 2 p.m. So the logic behind that is that there are not enough people or constituents in certain spaces, which is why it closes before 6 p.m.
Okay. And we also have another reporter on ground that we want to get in touch to, Anis.
All right, let's go to Anis.
Hello, hi Tamina and Adila. So right now I am at Perikatan gathering between the Perikatan Nasional members and as well as the supporters. So right now we are at Lamari Golf and Country Club. So basically right now we can see that there are some media practitioners gathering around filling up the space, but there are very few supporters spotted. So far right now nothing big is happening yet, but yeah, we will hope to see in a few hours maybe for more support, for more crowds to come in. As of now, nothing is really happening yet.
Right, thank you so much for that update, Anis. So it looks like a little bit of the calm before the storm, right? I think everyone's worn out from having fulfilled their duties and perhaps a little bit later in the evening once night falls.
Yes, correct. I mean, 6 p.m. Is only like half an hour ago. So there are reports online of early results or unofficial results, and we do want to ask viewers or Malaysians to just keep a bit of caution as well, because it is still very early for the final result or the full result to come out, and please wait until the official result is announced for you to have an idea of whether your favorite candidate or the place that you voted have announced their winners. So yes, you can keep track of what's happening online, but just know that it is the unofficial results and it's still very, very early.
Absolutely. And of course, once again, just as an advisory, everything that you're receiving via your WhatsApp and other applications, be sure to actually double check to verify before you pass on and reshare random forwards. A really good baseline by which to gauge whether or not something might be misinformation or disinformation or fake news as we call it, is to check and see the source.
Yes,
if it goes back to a credible news source, then you can feel comfortable in sharing it as something which is verifiable and fact-checked. Yeah.
Yes, and I think there's a very interesting news that I saw reported on BuzzFeed, where Malaysians living overseas raced against the clock to deliver at least 33,000 overseas ballots home for the election. They are all volunteers, they are all patriotic Malaysians who actually organized among themselves the polling, the election forms on their own based on specific states and send it together to make sure that all the precious cargo will be sent to Malaysia in time for them to be counted. For this GE, Akmal Raza and his friends embarked on the long drive from Columbus, Ohio to New York City at 11:30 p.m. on Monday, determined to get to Robin Choi before she flew out Tuesday night. So dozens of postal ballots from Malaysian voters in the US entrusted to Akmal Raza and Robin Choi to deliver to Malaysia. So I think this is really one of those heartwarming stories that we get during this election, where Malaysians, who otherwise don't know each other, come together to fulfill their democratic duties.
Exactly. And in total, we've got roughly 49,000 postal voters. As you said, about 33K are guaranteed to be getting back home in time. And we've seen lots of thought pieces and opinion analyses on what lengths Malaysians actually go to, increasingly with the past few general election cycles, to make sure that their vote gets back in time and that it's done. And once again, that it brings together not just strangers, but perhaps this actually speaks about a growing citizen interest in democratic processes. We've also seen, of course, not as many younger candidates as we would like, but definitely it's much higher than the last general election.
Definitely. And in fact, what we heard on ground earlier today as well, Saluran 8, 9, 10, which is the youngest, are filled up very early in the morning, together with from Saluran 1, 2, 3, 4, which is usually the ones that are filled up during the election season. So we're definitely seeing that young voters, unlike what some may have predicted, that young voters have the awareness, they have the interest and the willingness to fulfill their democratic duty, or some said privilege, today. And it's really exciting to see netizens sharing their finger pictures, right?
Absolutely.
And sharing what they wear. Some fashion brands are doing like their own little mini campaign where people are encouraged to wear baju kurung or nice dresses to polling stations, just like kind of reminisce to the older times when their grandparents' generation would dress up really nicely to go to the polling station, because it is really the most important day for a Malaysian in the next 5 years. Really is today. And we at Sinar Daily also want to congratulate and thank you all Malaysians who go out and vote today. Not just those who vote for today, but those who fulfill their duties via postal votes or early voting. Thank you so much for fulfilling your duties.
Exactly. So I think it's just been a huge swell of excitement. And as all the messages flying around most social media apps as well as WhatsApp groups and chats is that, all right, the anxiety can begin now, the nail biting can begin now, because until we're down to the wire, 6 p.m. onwards, that's it. It's all about the counting. We entrust, the entire votes of the whole citizenry and the nation into the hands of SPR, and we hope for a fair process and a fair outcome.
Yes, correct. And definitely, it's going to be it's going to be a long night for all of us, but hopefully not too long. May all our anxiety be addressed tonight, so that we can move on to a more important thing.
That's right.
That is to help rejuvenate the country's economy, rejuvenate the people's spirits to face the challenges of tomorrow.
Now, speaking of what challenges that there may be to come, we actually have one of our reporters, Kausalya, at PH. Let's get her insights from on the ground and throw over to her. Hello, Kausalya. Tell us what's happening where you are.
Hello everyone. So right now I'm at Singapore, where for the so as of now the leaders are still coming. There are no updates yet about the top leaders. Yes, will be right because that is the unfortunate right happened. So that for his arrival. The media here excited
All right, the line was a little scrambled over there, so we did not exactly catch what Kausalya was telling us. Hopefully, we'll be able to touch base with her in just a little while before we wrap. Of course, today's final edition of Voting Nation for Sinar Daily. And of course, this is just the anchor before we move into the evening analysis, right?
Yes, correct. The grandstand event that is happening from 8 p.m. At Sinar Harian website, our Facebook channel and also YouTube channel. Tune in for the grandstand event where we're going to have live tracking of the election results hosted by Kamara Bahrain, me, and also Hazwan Mokhtar. And we will have a couple of analysts who will be joining us tonight, which is Professor Madya Dr. Muhammad Fatih Yusof, Dr. Madeline Burma from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., we will have Dr. Sri Akbar Sattar and Dr. Shahruddin Awang Ahmad, who will be joining us to provide an analysis of the coming results of GE15. Hopefully by then we would have more information, would have at least an idea of which state is dominated by who and what's happening, and hopefully there's not going to be any controversies during the counting period, which is usually the case in previous elections. We do have some controversies happening, blackouts or protests and all that, and we hope that tonight it's not going to be the case. We hope that tonight will be smooth sailing so that we can go into the analysis and be able to share the excitement of GE15 result with you, our viewers. Yeah.
Definitely, and it was also very interesting earlier to be able to connect with Mona Wanap, who is of course our Borneo correspondent, because she had some insights which were a little bit contrary to what's been predicted by analysts, specifically for Borneo and Sarawak as the potential quote-unquote kingmakers. So rather than believing that GPS in Sarawak would win an easy 25 out of roughly 31 seats, it's looking like it might be more of a 20. So that leaves the field a little bit more open for independents, which once again, we have seen a historic number running in Malaysia. So with more independents at the same time, I think it'd be nice to sort of wrap up our conversation before we go out by taking a quick look at the age breakdowns of all the candidates who've been running. So what I have with me here is that the biggest age group of candidates running are still the 50 to 59-year-olds, 298 of them in all. Then we also have those who are over 60, 258 of them. And the 40 to 49 crowd entails 241 candidates running for the GE. Meanwhile, only 19 candidates are between the ages of 21 to 29.
Okay.
So despite the fact that we have been hearing, I think, a lot of rhetoric about young blood, fresh blood, new leaders, and also remembering not everybody who runs obviously gets those golden seats at the end of the day to be able to become the people's representative, right? So are we really going to be seeing a fresh crop of leaders?
Yep.
Whatever the results that happen.
Let's hope so as well. And just adding on to your age trivia, I just have a little bit of trivia on age as well. The oldest candidate contesting is Parti Pejuang Tanah Air GTA Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, our former Prime Minister, at 96 years old for Parliament seat. While for Don seat, Fuadin Kamarudin, who is also representing Pejuang, is 70 years old and he is contesting at Don Kubu Gajah. For the youngest candidate, independent candidate at Tenom, Peggy Chow Ziting, who's also the youngest female candidate at 23 years old. For Don seat is Pakatan Harapan's Muhammad Syahmi Suhaimi candidate at Don Tambung Tulang, 23 years old.
Fantastic. And I think what's very interesting is also that we have seen specifically within, I think, the Greater Klang Valley area, quite a lot of these hot seats. This time around, Batu, for example, with 10 entire candidates. You've even got Sungai Buloh with 7 candidates. And amongst them, of course, political stars, such as, of course, caretaker health minister, Khairy Jamaluddin, running in Sungai Buloh. But it's still a pretty tough contest.
Definitely.
Because he is running against a PH stronghold, despite it being a brand new candidate from PH.
Yes, so there's a lot of surprises that we might look out for tonight.
That's
a lot
right.
of surprises, potentially a few upsets. That's going to change the course of political dynamics in this country in the future. So we're looking forward to the live result tonight.
That's right. And meanwhile, we've just heard that we are able to finally connect with Kausalya at PH. Over to you, Kausalya. What's happening on the ground with you now?
Hello everyone, this is Kausalya Survum. So one of Sinar Daily's team is at Grand Dorset Subang here. And not only our media, it's like all the media in Malaysia is gathering here for the PH announcement, which will be made in a bit. So as of now, there are still medias coming in and going out. So there are no top leadership has not arrived yet. But Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim is set to arrive at 7 p.m. So we are still waiting for his arrival, and we will keep you guys updated time to time. So just subscribe us, follow us in all of our social media platforms, and we will keep you updated. Thank you.
All right. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long night for reporters on the ground.
Definitely.
Yeah, meanwhile, holding the fort in the studios as well, and really relying and depending upon everyone who's been out there covering from before sun up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the time we have for Voting Nation wrap up today. And thank you so much to everyone for watching. I'm Adila Azam, and I hope to see you again on Sinar Daily Facebook.
That's right. I'm Tamina Kazji signing off for Voting Nation. Thank you for joining us throughout the day, 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and right now wrapping up our 6 p.m. show. See you then. Thank you so much for voting and exercising your right.